Welcome to the story of Millie Salmon and the Infinite Shop. This is Chapter 12, Envelopes and Boxes. It's Millie's turn to bake, this time some cinnamon rolls. I'm the author, Ray Dubicki, happy to read this story to you. I hope you enjoy the holidays in the Salmon household. You can join Millie Salmon on Patreon or find more at milliesalmon.com. And you can follow this podcast and other stories on social media at Infinite Shop Limited. Chapter 12, Envelopes and Boxes. Millie liked Christmas plenty, but it wasn't nearly as important as her birthday. This was not as an insult to anyone. This was just that her birthday would be lost in the shuffle if she didn't make a big deal out of it. The weeks after the Christmas, New Year's holiday complex tend to get overshadowed by the long week of merriment leading up to it and the exhausted relief when it's all over. Grandpa kindly pointed out that on the planet Tartala, there was a similar week-long winter festival, and the day that followed was its own holiday called the Day of Napping and Washing the Dishes. Thanks, Grandpa, Millie underappreciated. So she risked falling on the wrong side of Santa, the church, and the general flow of society in loudly saying, often, how little she liked Christmas. When folks asked, she reminded them of her own birthday only 2 weeks later. A few people understood. The rest didn't hear her because they were too busy getting ready for Christmas. Mom and Dad didn't buy it one bit. Each year, they just threatened a significant decrease in presents. First to go were the big-ticket items. Millie backed off a little, but the warning reminded her parents not to cross the gifts. There would be presents for both, and they would always make an actual big deal of her birthday with a party. Or they had in years past. This year, with the general announcement that January 11th wasn't her actual birthday, she kept up the charade out of habit. Not finding true joy in what she was doing detached her from the whole season, made her look sideways at the rote actions and blank expressions of people who were supposed to be so joyous. She watched them going and getting ready for the holiday and wondered how many of them actually liked Christmas and how many were like her, wearing deeper footprints into places it was comfortable to walk. Still didn't keep her from tweaking true believers. Mrs. Collins simply did not accept such blasphemy against Christmas. "The Lord does not look kindly on such heady little girls." "I'm not a little girl." "To God and His Son you are." This didn't amuse Millie, so she started singing Christmas carols to the tune of Happy Birthday. Most of them worked. She liked the ones that didn't. This sent Mrs. Collins into a towering fit of spit-flinging rage, so she sent Millie home with a series of Gregorian chants to memorize. Regardless, that had been a few weeks ago, and Millie kept pounding on the importance of her birthday at the expense of Christmas, fully realizing that it was a half-truth. And now that she knew the 11th wasn't her real birthday, it was even more of a half-truth. She was down to about a quarter truth. As homework tapered off in the final week before winter break, it gave Millie the opportunity to teach the game of teacup to Reggie and Pats. She figured it would take a deck of playing cards with the sixes removed, face cards for cups, 2s through 5s for plates, 7s through 10s for napkins and silverware. So long as they could deal evenly, they could play with 3 people. "Who taught you this game?" Pats asked. His method of teaching new games was a complete laying out of the rules for him to digest, then ramp up slowly. Millie reeled for a second. Life did?" "Oh, really?" Reggie was spontaneously more impressed. He was thinking it was a boring Hearts variant and really preferred card games that included small monsters exploding. "Tell me more." His method of learning games was to enforce the rules against newbies until they felt them more than knew them. Millie started to explain the idea of arranging the teacups or face cards vertically and the low numbers horizontally. The mid numbers were action cards to reverse, fend, pour, and skip. Why didn't you use the face cards for the actions? Pats asked. They don't have face cards. It's really supposed to be a set of cups and plates and stuff. Pats looked a bit sideways at the table. That's weird. That's what I said, but it works. We'll just do it symbolically. After a few times through, they had a solid approximation of the game going, without the waterworks or the porcelain. Millie jotted down 2 notes to figure out. They kept getting caught up where there were 2 reverses played in a row and what the approximate scoring should be, given numbers and not fluids. School ended on a Friday, and due to a quirk in the calendar, they had an entire week off before actual Christmas Day. It was a wet cold, so when they didn't set up in Millie's or Reggie's living rooms, they spent their time cycling between the library, room and board, or the shop. It was actually an afternoon that Dad had come down to the shop with Evan that Millie found another otherworldly book. It was a slick brown cover with a dramatic photograph of a very delicate fork and an even more delicate ceramic mug. Rules of the Game of Teacup, official and unabridged, 47th edition, by Wellen W. Weldy. The shop knew what she was interested in, and she found it. Be proactive, Millie thought. She looked to make sure that Pats and Reggie were out of earshot before she showed the book to her father. Dad, I want to let you know that this book was on the shelf for me. She handed over the volume. Dad sighed hard enough to turn the pages on the newspaper stand. It just doesn't. He shook his head and looked pensive for a moment. Well, we kind of do know where this came from. You were playing with Yalian kids on Brentone. Be proactive, be proactive, be proactive, Millie thought. I did. I like it a lot. We've been working on a card game that's as close to Teacup as I can get with cards. Dad thought for a minute. What number did you take out? 6s. Well, then that makes a lot more sense. Did you use the face cards for actions? No, they're the teacups. Interesting. He handed the book to Millie. Share the game, but keep this to yourself and keep it to just cards. You're not dragging our fine china to the game shop. We don't have any fine china. And it's going to stay that way. Your mother is not welcome to the casinos on Torloon or Hatoba. As easily as the shop handed Millie a rule book for the game of Teacup, she still wrestled with the question of her actual birthday. They had said the shop was a depository of tangible memory. There had to be some tangible record of when she was actually born. Sure, she had a birth certificate that said her birthday, January 11th, 2010. But that could be faked given a printer, much less this improbable machine. Shouldn't there be some trace of the original? Shouldn't the shop know what she was looking for and leave it in the sheet music or something? Pats and Millie were in her apartment, each with a video game controller. They were racing against Reggie, who was home, his parents out for an early evening at the holiday opera. Reggie had begged to not go before they told him they hadn't even bought him a ticket and pizza would be arriving at 5 p.m. But he was not to go out this afternoon. He admitted mixed feelings. I mean, they left me and expected me to not feel abandoned? Reggie's head bobbed back and forth across the computer screen. The camera, still in a way Reggie's driving, was not. Pats took a weird corner, then recovered. But you don't even want to go. But they didn't even want me there. But the times they took you and Michelle, you hated it. I didn't hate it. I just didn't see the point of the opera. Christmas is operatic enough. They don't need an excuse to dress up more. Your parents were taking you to a Christmas thing. They wanted to culture you in a way that obviously didn't work. But why opera? They sing the feelings they can't impress. That's opera, Doc, and you annually disrupted the show. We made the shows more interesting with small fireworks and streamers. And there was the time you streaked on stage. Michelle did that, and he wasn't naked. He had that thong that said Santa's best gift. And there was the thing with the helium and the soda dispenser. They deserved that. It was a $10 drink, and it was mostly ice. Millie came in last, behind both the boys and a handful of NPCs. Pats looked at her sideways. You don't lose at Chicken Coop Loop. He's the one supposed to have emotional issues. What's wrong with you? Hey, said Reggie over the computer. Millie gave a shrug, half paying attention and half trying to avoid. I don't have a song to express my feelings. Try, or you're going to end up dead last, Pat said. Try, or you're going to end up getting beaten again, Reggie said, on a slight delay. Millie looked around the edge of the couch to see if Dad could hear. He was in the back bedroom, and they could hear the vacuum still running, just grinding away at life. Walker thing or number thing? She told them about the broad swoops of her issues, the repeated numbers of her birthdays showing up when the shop freaked out. That it disgorged countless aliens into the market didn't get mentioned. That it had misplaced a troop of people from another world did. The part where the numbers were not really her birthday hadn't made it into the conversation. She planned to let them know more about her real birthday if she ever found out more. Hopefully the number thing fixes the Walker thing. Millie was sure it would, but didn't know how many other hoops she'd have to get through between the two. Until then, it's plaguing me. Sleep upside down on your bed. Like a bat? Millie asked. No, Pat said. Like a bat? Reggie asked, with the slight delay of a video call. No, like where your head goes where your feet go. It's just a change of perspective. Help me come up with the end of the dungeon run we're about to do. Reggie groused at the idea of another story twist at the end of a dungeon run. Millie liked the thought that something so simple could change everything. I am the bat, she said. Good. Now try this again. Pats hit the start button to redo the last course. They replayed Chicken Coop Loop, and she summarily whipped their butts. Reggie's pizza arrived, and they shut down the video call and the game. Dad emerged from the rooms, vacuuming down the hallway. He wrapped up and came to the kitchen. Pats, are you staying for dinner tonight? Thank you, Jules. Can I ask what's on the menu? Pats didn't let it get large at school, but him and his mom were vegetarians. Millie knew Dad put aside the test kitchen experiments and had a couple good curries for when he saw Pats had stayed into the afternoon. We have a green bean and chickpea coconut curry. I like green beans. They're like foliage straws with surprise peas. That's exactly right, Dad exclaimed. He fired up the kitchen, pleased to be appreciated by such a smart young person. Thanks, I'll stick around. Millie and Pats gamed on the couch from sunset until dinner, comfortably shoulder to shoulder. Christmas morning, the sun rose pale yellow on a frigid white sky. 2 years prior, Millie decided that she was too old to do the screaming pre-dawn run into the living room. Dad gave her a $20 bill as thanks. She still woke up early, but didn't wake her parents. She was not completely shocked when she flicked on the lights to the kitchen and there was no flood of ribbon and wrapping paper. Mom and Dad still had hidden presents, but they didn't kill themselves to bring them out in the middle of the night. Now Millie had a surprise for them. Millie turned on the coffee maker. She pulled out eggs and a tube of cinnamon rolls. The package said to turn on the oven, but when she looked, it was already on. She opened the oven and found an enormous ceramic pot simmering away inside. Rats. Dad, Dad, Dad. Each was a little louder. Dad opened the eye not buried in a pillow. Merry Christmas. Thank you, dear. I thought you were too old to wake me up on Christmas morning. I am, but you left something in the hot oven overnight, and I wanted to make sure it was okay. Yeah, it's beef and beans for dinner tonight. Drifting, Dad smacked his lips, his partially conscious mind enjoying the roast already. Can I, move it? Dad furrowed his brow with his eyes closed, processing the strange request in twilight sleep. He opened his eyes, wondering if he had dreamt what he just heard. Millie came into focus, and he remembered the request and became really concerned. Is it on fire? Is everything okay? Are you okay? Breath came from Millie in a long sigh, deflating her shoulders and bobbing her head. I'm trying to surprise you with breakfast. Dad's face softened, and he sat up to wrap his arms around Millie. Oh, thank you, dear. I'm sorry. I had no idea. That's why it's called a surprise. And it is. Do you want me to move the pot? It's probably all finished. No, I can do it. Just be careful. It's heavy. You can put it on top of the stove, on one of the burners, but don't turn it on. It's just going to sit there and think about things for most of the day. And thank you so much, Millie. Breakfast is so sweet. He hugged her again. You're welcome. I'll let you know when you can come out. And please brush your teeth before joining us at the table. Mom sat in her robe, stuffing the end of a cinnamon roll into her mouth. I'm so relieved. Crumbs scattered. This is the most civilized Christmas morning I can remember. Dad sat down with a fresh coffee. Thank you, Millie. This is really fantastic. Millie started clearing the remnants of breakfast. You're welcome. Merry Christmas. She even gave the egg pan a scrub before setting back down. Dad would still have to fend with the cinnamon roll pan after the last ones were claimed. When she pulled up her chair, there were two presents on the table. One was a flat brown envelope, barely puckered so whatever was in it was not more than a few bills or a check. The other was a neatly wrapped cube. What is this? Those presents. Mom nodded towards the living room, where she had drug out a pile of boxes, are for Christmas. But before we do that, there's something else. We want you to have a choice of when you have your birthday this year. The world will always know your birthday as January 11th, and that will remain important. But you know we've messed with the date. Finding that out really took your birthday away from you, so we talked about it. Her and Dad looked back and forth. And you should be allowed to take it back. These two things will let you decide when to celebrate it in the family this year. Take it back. Millie liked that idea. She lifted the two presents towards her. The smaller package was by far the heavier one. She unwrapped it, and it was a children's book, boxy, with thick pages, and it weighed 15 pounds. What the? Mom answered. Wood is a precious commodity in Delabrator, so many documents are digital. Important books are written on a porous cement. Dad, never one to give up the chance, said, You don't want them to throw the book at you. They turned to Dad. He was grinning. They turned away. She flipped through. So this is a real book from Delabrator. She looked through the pictures and the big print. It's about a festival they have. Yes, and this year's festival will be on our January 16th, just in time for you to go after school. So I can have my birthday on Delabrator. You have a few days, read up on it, and see what you think. But there is another alternative. Mom nodded at the envelope. Millie pulled out a single sheet that was neither cash nor a check. It was green, embossed, heavy paper, earth paper, with Certificate of Live Birth, titled across the top. She looked down at the form, Female Baby, parents, Salvia and Montaigne, born 00 hours, January 1st, 2000. This is Dad's turn. There is a hole in the record of the persistence engine. 1. This is the document that fills that hole. Back to Mom. When I rebuilt the persistence engine, I had to shut the engine down, remove that from public documents, and restart the whole thing just to make sure it didn't appear somewhere you would be seen. I was born on the millennium? She caught herself. You named me Millennium? Yes, Dad said. There were fireworks. It was spectacular. But 10 years and 10 days, I'm 23? No, you are 13, Mom said, or you will be in 17 days. We just spent the first 10 days of your life playing with relativity. A cloud sprouted over the table. Millennia, Salvia, Montaigne surveyed her options, recognized that she was 10 years older than she thought, but through a bubble in space-time, appeared on the surface of the Earth chipper and new, with birthday paperwork to match, or get to go back to Dalabrator and enjoy sharing her birthday with yet another holiday. Do you feel okay? Dad asked. I feel like I want another cinnamon roll. I get to choose between a birthday on the biggest party I never got to attend or have it on an alien holiday that I have to read about in a children's book? Is this supposed to be reclaiming my birthday as my own? Mom fielded that answer. You don't have to do any of those things. We just put a couple guideposts in for you to anchor whatever decision you want to make. Take one of the holidays, take neither of them, and go out somewhere on your own. These were just some ideas we had. I really do want another cinnamon roll. Millie got up and took her plate to the counter. The feeling of Christmas morning victory was giving way to the familiar confusion and puzzlement of the last months. One question answered. She knew what her birthday really was. It didn't make any sense with the numbers or the lost march. And now she had the added complex of missing a decade of time, puzzles on angry. She looked at her cinnamon roll flat on her plate. Sleep upside down. Do something different and see if things change. Millie took out a knife and sliced the roll sideways on the equator like a hamburger bun. She opened the roll, put a big scoop of scrambled eggs from the serving bowl and a piece of cheese and stuck the whole thing in the microwave. She saw Dad open his mouth to say something, but Mom put her hand on his to keep him quiet. Millie poured herself half a cup of coffee, filled it to the top with milk. The microwave dinged, and she took out her second breakfast to the table. Sleep upside down. Millie sat down with her cinnamon roll cheese sandwich. She bit in. It wasn't that good. It was great. The melty cheese was weird with all the sugar, but it was fat and sweet and creamy and all the eggy pepper all at once. Dad's weird food needed this mix of flavors more often. She didn't want her birthday to change, she thought, but everything else around it could. Can you tell me something about this holiday? Why do you like it? She asked. Dad started talking. So the holiday is called Obstervo. It started on Flaxty, a neighboring world to Dalabrator's world of Pirion. They celebrate the escape of the Kasaba. Thousands of years ago, some ruling tribes swapped prisoners. In passing, they all switched outfits. So when they got to their new cells, they tricked the guards into letting them out. 6 different sets of prisoners, all working together independently. They rallied afterwards under the new banner as Kosabs, which roughly translates to Fork of God, which they then used to massacre all the surrounding tribes. Now it's the Halloween party with costumes and treats and skull-shaped piñatas, essentially, that get broken open with pitchforks. Dad's description trailed off into his realization that it wasn't the most upbeat of festivals. Millie wondered how much of this made it into the picture book. That sounds like a fun party, but it's not mine. She bit more sandwich and chewed for a bit. And the year 2000 is meaningless to me. Might as well have been 1492. She saw Dad wince a little bit at that. Putting him into the 15th century was a bit harsh. Millie felt the last weeks of half measures that she took as a routine. Her lead up to Christmas had been hollow, just the motions. Part of that was how it didn't impact her birthday because she didn't know what her birthday actually was. She made a decision. Her birthday was her birthday. As that settled into her brain, her heart started to fill up. She thought about the little pushes she made to remind folks it was her real birthday, the little side grins and pretend irritated she got when someone forgot her day. Deciding it was her day, they stopped feeling hollow and dishonest. She thought about Mrs. Collins' Gregorian chants and how they actually made winter feel Christmassy. She thought about this Christmas morning and realized there was a pretty good gift among all these kind of misses and half presents. Decision made. She wasn't going to give up the chance at one more concession. No matter what I pick, I still get a birthday party. Dad answered, absolutely, no changes there. Mom's half smile into her cup of coffee suggested that Mom already knew Millie's decision. I'm going to keep my birthday as it is. I was born on January 11th, 2010. Dad clapped. Yes! Afternoon birthday, and I get to avoid Obstervo another year. He caught Millie's sideways stare, quietly questioning why he would want to shove a holiday he was avoiding off onto her birthday. It's a very fun party, Millie. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like the commercialization of it, and your father has found it far too fun on occasion and has been asked to leave Obstervo celebrations in the past, to great humiliation. I'm glad I could help with your social standing, Father, but what happens to that? Millie nodded at the original birth certificate for a person she didn't know with a birthday she didn't recognize. Mom was ready for that question. It will go back into its lockbox. Where that is and how it works is something we're not going to tell you, but I'll explain why. It actually takes energy for the persistence engine to avoid seeing this, and keeping things out of the shop is quite dangerous. If it is destroyed, its information is absolutely annihilated from its existence. We don't need you hiding your report card in the lockbox. For now. I don't need to hide my straight A report card. No, you do not, Dad said. But anything else you consider hiding, we're not giving you that out. That discussion was over, and Dad had moved to party planning. Do you want any recognition that there's a separation between your birth date and your birthday? 1100. I'll take $1,100 to reflect the birth date. Dad shook his head. How about a new laptop? Another head shake, this time from both of them. Then we'll just consider it symbolically, Millie said. Her life had become a card game of teacup. This was Millie Salmon and the Infinite Shop, Chapter 12, Envelopes and Boxes. In the next episode, it is Millie's birthday, the one she chose. Thank you for listening. You can find out more about Millie at milliesalmon.com or join us on Patreon. Please like, subscribe, and leave a review on whichever podcast app you use. Millie Salmon and the Infinite Shop is a production of Infinite Shop Limited, which you can follow on all social media platforms. I'm Ray Dubicki. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to reading some more for you soon.